Giving up my whole life. I want what's mine. Should I stay? Should I leave? Should I go? I don't know. Whoa. Let my love decide. Oh yeah, I just had a hard year. I had lost my car, yeah. Then lost my apartment. Moved out to New Brunswick, right next to the college. Then I got evicted, but I'm still remain solid. All my niggas believe in me. I ain't see what they see in me. Now I see what they seen in me.
I gotta go to North. I gotta go to North on Saturday. I gotta support them.
Yes.
You don't know what this mean to me. I wasn't focused like this back when I was young. This light of mine, I let it shine just like the sun. I don't need you to come and tell me I'm the one. I've been the one. Give it up. Give it up. Oh my whole life. I want what's mine.
Okay, I see you. That is Prince Hill. New Position by Prince Hill. Shout out to you. He mentioned that he's from New Brunswick, Newark area. He's an artist that's up and coming. Please follow, support SoundCloud, Apple Music, Spotify, all that jazz. I hope to have him on the show soon. If not, still blessings to you. Keep going. And he's going to be at a show this Saturday. So hopefully we'll be out to support all the whole team who's going to be performing out there. I believe St. James is on the lineup. And then I think Dizzy or I forgot, literally Dizar, I forgot his name, but he's a reggae artist. He's going to be out there too. So yeah, but here we are. It's Reflections with Val. And just as we do every single episode, we have a new guest today, and he is the collective, one of three. VQ was here before him. She's a part of that collective, the Freedom Fighters. This is Freedom himself. So I'm just going to have him introduce himself.
Yo. My name is Freedom. I'm from Elizabeth, New Jersey. I'm a visual artist, traditional visual artist, a graphic designer. I'm an event planner. I have my own events as well as photographer. I'm just jumping in photography as well.
Hey, yes, let them know. So you have a creative little box you guys could definitely take advantage of. Where they can find your work and stuff like that, just straight on your Instagram.
Yeah, straight on my Instagram, freedom_of_righteousness_. So you can find
a lot of underscores.
Yeah, it's a few, about 3.
It's about 3 underscores, but you get the point.
Yeah, you get the gist.
So let's talk about, let's get down to the nitty gritty here. Let's reflect.
Okay.
I'm ready for this. I'm excited to have this person here because he has an impactful story, and I think I'm gonna allow him share whatever he feels comfortable with sharing. But I think this is gonna be a real deep one for y'all. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just allow the words to heal you. If they resonate, comment. Like if you guys want to talk about your experiences, feel free. But without further ado, you're from Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Yes, born and raised. Well, actually, I was born in Newark, and I was raised in Elizabeth my entire life. So,
raised in Elizabeth your entire life. Now,
yes.
Let's talk about the time growing up. Like, how was that as a child? Like, how was it living where you were living in Elizabeth? What was going on, growing up?
All right. So, basically, at a very young age, my mom, she passed away. She passed away from cancer. I was only 1 year old, and basically my grandmother and my grandparents took the responsibility of taking care of me.
Okay.
So, I lived in Newark for the first year of my life, and when she passed away, the custody was granted towards my grandparents. My father, he just kind of left,
All right, so that was when you were adopted by your...
Essentially, yes. I was adopted by my grandparents.
Okay, yes. So they became your caretakers.
Yes.
Now, I guess, did you always just see your grandparents as your parents? Or you?
Yes. It was no point in time. Like, I have no memory of my mother or my father. My father, probably once or twice I met him after the fact, when I was like 5 or 6. But my entire life, my grandparents were my parents. So.
Oh wow, that must be very touching.
Yeah.
Shout out to your grandparents for that.
Yeah.
So, growing up in this household with your grandparents parenting you, how was that life like in your neighborhood? Like, what were you doing? How was your upbringing like?
So my upbringing was, I'm gonna be honest and try to be very transparent with everyone. It was hard. It was hard. I had uncles with me, and I consider them as my brothers.
Yeah.
So a lot of my uncles were, either gang members or drug dealers. So I was, constantly surrounded by that my entire life. And I always felt like I wanted more in my life. And then they used to tell me like, "Yo, you could do better than us. You're supposed to learn from our mistakes. To elevate higher."
Mm-hmm.
So
they were out here in this life.
Mm-hmm, yeah, they basically living their life, and I was witnessing this all firsthand.
Firsthand. What was that discovery like? What age was that firsthand experience like?
Since I can remember, like since I was like 5 years old. I'll give you a story right now. The first time I ever got a gun pulled out my face, it wasn't any criminals that pulled the gun in my face. It was actually the sheriff's department. They came down. They ran down to my house. They broke down the door.
Right.
I remember it vividly, like it was yesterday. My grandparents were upstairs. They were listening to music. I was downstairs. I was eating this peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'll never forget it. And I remember the sheriffs. One of the sheriffs came in, and busted through, and I didn't hear him. And he just pointed a gun in my face, said "freeze." And I'm 5 years old with a peanut butter jelly sandwich in my hand. I dropped it. I was like, what's going on? They were looking for my uncle, and he had a warrant out for his arrest. So it was not only the sheriffs but the bail bondmen. They were there as well. So I was shook. That was my first encounter with the police.
Right.
Yeah. So I was shook. I remember crying. I was about probably say about 5 years old. I was 5 years old when I had that encounter.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were exposed to violence at a very young age.
Yes.
Dang. So it kind of I feel like in a life like that, me being a child brought up in all of the surroundings is kind of like, it's a normality. It's kind of like I'm going to be prone to also be a part of this life.
Exactly. You just kind of like, all right, this is what I was dealt. This is the cards that I dealt with, so I'm going to deal with it. This is
the
who
norm.
I'm destined to become, But after realizing no, I'm different. I'm different from everybody in my family. I have something that's inside me that I probably don't see yet, but certain family members that have been down these, dark roads and dark paths to see the light with me. So I was just like,
so it's like behavioral patterns that kind of trickle down into a domino effect. That's what you're specifically going against. Right
exactly.
now.
Exactly. Against the grain, essentially, what I've been,
doing for, would you say what age you started going against the grind and just started realizing I don't have to be this?
I say around when I was 17 or 18. Before that, I felt like I was destined for that life. So I just, I became it, and I absorbed it, and I they were sad, like my uncles and my grandparents were sad, like, yo, why are you chilling out with this type of energy, these type of people, and I felt like, that's what I deserved, and that's who I was supposed to become.
You felt because of your life and your upbringing that this is the lifestyle you deserved.
Yes.
So you literally walked yourself into it.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Became it because this was all that you knew. This was your family.
Yes, that was when you're being raised by this upbringing, and you're like, yo, this I got this for a reason. So maybe I just have to, be engulfed in this type of the lifestyle. If I'm being trained and I felt like in a sense like I was supposed to be better than them in what they were doing. Not going on my own path, but be better than them because I know all this knowledge at a young age. And I was young. My first ever drug deal was actually when I was 12 years old.
And that's actually normal.
Yeah.
In our life, because I'm from Patterson, and it's the same thing there.
Yeah.
I think I was exposed. Because you and I had kind of been brought up in that same kind of similar lifestyle, but mine, I got away from it. But if I had not gotten away from it at that age, 11, 12, I would have fallen into that route and probably found myself at the same time that you did. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh,
I get you.
Woo! Yeah. It's hard out here, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot
So you definitely didn't find that Phil growing up after your what made you become more submissive to this lifestyle? Like, was your grandparents still living in that lifestyle or no?
So basically, my grandparents, they weren't living that lifestyle. My grandparents just, have absolutely like loved their children, unconditional love for their children.
No, I'm saying like, were they witnessing you in this lifestyle?
Yes.
Or were they already?
They were a part of it, but they didn't really like feed in it too much. Like, they kind of told me like you got a better path than your uncles. It was mainly like my uncles that were a big influence in my life.
I mean, those were the male figures in your life.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking about male figures, like I said, my father, I only met him probably when I was like 5 or 6.
So you didn't have any connection with that image there, that man.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing I could remember is him giving me a Batman action figure, which is my favorite character in DC. He gave me a Batman action figure when I was like 5, and then I just vividly remember him walking away, and I just remember his back, and that was the last thing I heard from him.
How does that make you feel as a man right now growing up? Like, have you come to peace with this, or are you working on coming to peace with your father? Or you don't even care?
So I came to peace with it, and because of this, basically, when I was in high school, I say about sophomore year, when I was in sophomore year, me and my uncle were online, and he was typing in my last name, and he was trying to find my father because we knew my father was still out there. We just didn't know where he was, and we knew that he lived around the Essex County area. Newark, Irvington, that's where he last lived. So, my uncle as a joke was like, yo, I'm gonna type in your last name, I'm gonna find your dad. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, let's see. Let's see. He went on Facebook. This is the power of social media. He went on Facebook and he typed in my last name, and a couple names popped up, and then a female's name popped up. Her name was Quana Tabron. And I'm just like, he's like, yo, that sounds like your sister, bro. Like, I think that's your sister. I'm gonna message her. And he messaged her. He's like, yo, do you have a little brother this name? And she was like, yes, I do have. And I was like, what? It felt surreal. I was like, yo, this is some movie shit. And that same night, I met her, and the first question I asked her was like, yo, where the F is dad at?
Ooh.
Where is he at? I haven't seen him in 10 years. I was 5 the last time I saw him. Where is he at?
Right. And what did she say?
She's like, unfortunately, I got to tell you this, but, 3 years ago, he was shot, killed, and murdered. And I'm like, by who? And she said, his wife at the time. She shot him with his own pistol.
Wow.
Yeah. Killed him, and and this entire time I thought he was living, and I had so much hatred and resent, and I was like, yo, I thought he was alive, and one day maybe I get to speak to him, and
that probably ate you up.
Yeah, it ate me up inside, and that's right there. That's when I started to spiral out of control. I started to chill in projects, chill with different gang members, and I started to do.
So that was around that reach out was what age again?
It was about 15. So,
okay. So that was like literally 17, 18. That's when you were just like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah, right before I was out. And what made me get out of that, when I was 15, 16, for about 2 years, I was heavily influenced by the people I was around. And, I just started chilling with different gang members, selling drugs, doing drugs. And then I took a big hit. Mm-hmm. Back in, I believe, 2011, 2012.
Yes.
And I lost my grandfather, and once he passed away, it changed my whole mindset about a lot of things, because that was like the only father figure I had in my life. So once he passed away, I was like, yo, I got to do better. I got to do something better and change my entire life and just transform into a different type of person.
Right. And I was actually just saying, like, I think that term that you were going through at that age was jaded.
Yeah.
You were definitely like, you had this pain, this resentment in your heart for years that you carried, this burden, this grudge. And then when your sister reached out to you and said he's not even living, I think that was that.
Yeah, it changed the whole dynamic.
It changed the dynamic. Jaded is another form for being numb.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like you're numb to what life throws at you after that, and you're numb to what you do. You don't care where you end up. You don't care the scenarios that you're surrounded by.
Yeah. I completely didn't care.
Exactly.
I didn't care about anybody, what they said or what they do. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. They give me like, I don't care.
Yeah, and actually, I wanted, as you were talking, I wanted to search the Urban Dictionary description of jaded, because like, why not? And Drake has a song called Jaded. For those who don't know, yes, I'm her. Yes, I'm jaded. Okay. So it says, a state of disillusionist and sadness. You see through everything and have no illusions about what is true. So many negative things happen that become difficult to stay positive about what once gave you hope and joy. Sometimes you might think there's hope, and then more negative things happen in the aspect you are jaded in.
Exactly. That hit the nail on the head.
And you become more jaded.
Yes. It's a cycle.
Yes.
It's a cycle that is continuous.
This can be felt in many different aspects: love, friendship, politics, trust, music, objects, etc. Actions, people, places, things can all leave you jaded. That is so true. Urban Dictionary. Oh my goodness. I felt every word. Like,
definitely spoke to me on that one.
right? I'm like, it's calling me out. I don't like it. Right? Like, I feel like I was targeted. But yes, I've had a moment where I was jaded as well. So I can resonate a lot with that. And it's always like in those, like you said, those awakening, those switches. Like, you're like, dang. It's like this wave of like life just slapped you, bitch slapped you in the face, and you're just there.
Yeah, you don't know how to react. You don't know how to feel. It just happens all of a sudden. You're not expecting it.
Just keep on happening.
Yeah, and it's continuous.
Yeah,
it's continuous. It's a cycle.
Yeah, that's crazy. So domestic violence and anger, temperament, aggression is something that's a cycle in your family. Yeah.
I saw a lot of that growing up. You know,
I mean, given the circumstances, like, I didn't know that your father passed away due to his ex, so that makes sense of domestic or verbal.
Yeah. And it wasn't only on my dad's side, but it was going on through the family I was living in at home. You know, like with my grandparents. You know, it took a toll. It took a big toll on my grandfather when my mom passed, because my mom, out of the 5 children, she was the oldest. That was his first daughter. That was his baby girl. So it fucked with him mentally. So he resorted to drugs and trying to kind of like sedate himself. You know. Yeah. So
because he couldn't cope.
He couldn't cope with it. You know. He just to see, and then at the same time, it's not only that, you know, his daughter passed away, but now I'm taking care of her child. Yeah. And I have to see her every day, basically, in him. Yeah. So it fucked with him mentally. You know.
So he couldn't look at you.
No, he couldn't really look at me, and I remember him always telling me, you know. Oh, he was like, you know, every time I smile, he's like, "You have your mom's smile," you know, like the same smile. I was just, you know, he used to say that. It's like, "I love you," you know, like, and I know he was hurting, he was in pain, you know, he felt that, you know. So it was a lot for him, you know. So a lot of that stemmed off on domestic violence in the household, you know, with my grandmother, and the issues was going on with that. And then, you know, I had my uncles doing what they were doing at the time. And
so you were always brought up surrounded by chaos.
Yeah, non-stop chaos throughout my entire life. Yeah.
Wow. So you're only bound, and essentially in these cases, a lot of statistics say that you're only bound to follow that lifestyle too.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people counted me out. They're like, "Oh, this guy's just gonna be like everyone else. He's gonna probably be a drug dealer or a drug addict, and he's not gonna, like, you know, prosper for himself. You know, he's gonna, according to his family, he's gonna fall in the same lines. You know." Yeah.
So that transition from having all of that pointed at you, right? When did you have that moment where you were like, fuck this image, fuck this lifestyle, this does not define me?
Yeah.
When did you grow out of that?
As soon as I grew out of that, it was the defining moment in my life. Like I said, once my grandfather, he passed away, I noticed, I was like, I gotta do something better. So I remember I was in high school, I had this dream. And in that dream, I was wearing the United States Marine Corps uniform. And the next day, I saw a recruiter in front of my high school. And I just went up to him. I let him know, like, yo, I had this dream. I don't know, some type of spiritual thing going on, but I had this dream, and I felt like I was supposed to talk to you today. And so he brought me in. I spoke to him about my life. He was touched. He said he never had a recruit tell him a story that deep before. And, me and him basically kind of became family in a sense. He was coming to my household, checking up on me. I was working out with him every day. And he was basically pushing me away from the lifestyle I was living. And
he was a true mentor.
Yeah, he was a true mentor. He was, and a
good male figure to look up to.
Yeah, shout out to Sergeant Castro. Sergeant Castro. Give him a shout out. He's an inspiration. He's an inspiration
Go
to
ahead,
me.
Sergeant Castro.
Mm-hmm. He told me, how he told me, like, yo, you should get out of here in this place, man. I feel like you have so much potential, and you're just wasting it by falling in this self-sabotage, self-destructive, perspective on life. So, I was just like, all right, I hear you. I'm listening. Mm-hmm. And once I hit 18, my 18th birthday, the day I graduated, I signed the papers to become a United States Marine. And I went to boot camp in October of 2013. And I was there. It was a struggle. It was hard. It was hard.
Yeah, military training is no joke, guys. It's just no joke. That's all I just gotta say on that. But there's a lot of lessons you can take from each training.
Yeah, definitely.
Like something always happens to out of nowhere, but you still can take that on into the real life. You realize that later on after you leave the military. It's crazy. It could either build you or break you.
Yeah, and
that's the dangerous part.
Yeah, it's kind of like a gamble, because certain people go out there with come out with PTSD. And that's a big thing in the military.
One of my boys, shout out to David. He's no longer in the military. Thank God. But when he was there, he was going through that. He was going through PTSD. He was the first liner. That's why, in the Marines.
Yeah. When you're a Marine, you're up in the front. You're a rifleman.
So he was already there, and he had his boy of 5 years with him that he did the training with recruits. They were together. They did the thing, and he blew up in front of him. Yeah, blew up. So yeah. After that, bro was just
changed his life forever.
That was a switch right there. That was it. That was his boy, his brother, his six, his his everything.
Yeah, these are people that you live with. They become family. They become family. When you're out there and you're in a battlefield, and you got to make sure you're with the right people, and that's your brother. He's making sure you're good, and you're making sure he's good. You know what I mean?
You build a system.
You build a system day in and day out.
That's your bunk.
Yeah, exactly.
Partner.
Certain nights, 3 to 4 nights, you're not showering, you're not sleeping. You're just constantly changing shifts, and you're just I fucking love this guy.
Right. You're venting to your brother about everything. The first week there, you just want to leave. You just
the first week I remember the first or second week when I was in the military, I was like, yo, what the hell did I get myself into? I was like, I was completely broken. I remember when I was in formation, I was holding a rifle up, and I was in formation, and I was like, yo, I started tearing from the eyes, yo, what am I doing here? I'm not supposed to be here. And I believe after that moment, I found within myself, no, I'm supposed to be here. And that right there is when I became a Marine. I felt, after that, I just started persevering through every obstacle they put in front of me. I was just like, yo, I'm gonna become a Marine. I'm getting out here being a Marine. I'm gonna gain this title. I earned this title.
Right.
Yeah.
You have this fire and ambition, this endurance that you haven't had before when you start not caring, when the pain no longer defines you because you surpassed it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I already hit that wall. Let's hit the other. Let's hit the next.
Yeah, just
Let's
keep
going.
Keep it coming.
Keep it coming. Because I already came through this. I already surpassed this. So why not go through the next level? Like if there's something about it, just like, all right, you got that first step. Now let's go to the third. Now let's reach for that third. And that's like that same energy and ambition and drive you bring on, militant people bring on into their real world life. And I've noticed that, like, they always grind. They're hustlers. They're making themselves businesses. They're doing whatever they could because they've already gone through worse. Why not? I've made it through my brother dying in front of me. I made it through gruesome shit. I've been shot at. I've been a sniper. Okay. You know, like, let's be real, like, on some real deep.
These are life or death situations.
I've been in the trenches.
The field. You're really out there in the field with that. Yeah.
It's not a joke. Like, and then when serious. You handle that, you're just like, all right, life, what is there that you cannot, like, at this point? And it also makes you jump into these chaotic areas in life because you're like, I already handled all this. I withstand the pain. So I'm going to jump right in through this situation and I'm going to cause the situation because I know I can and I know I could be them. You know, like there's some people who just be doing that and acting out of pure pain and pure ignorance and just pure like, I want somebody to feel what I felt. I don't care. And those are some jaded areas where like we're dangerous because now we're projecting, now we're lashing out on people that don't even deserve it.
Exactly.
That's why you have drunk, angry people fighting in a bar. Like that's stupid. It's just crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like shout out to all the people out there that are military people though. I respect every single one of you guys, veterans. Oh, look at you. Because you're a veteran. Get it?
Vet.
How long in that military life were you in a part of? Like what was your contract? When did you end and when did you close that chapter?
So that chapter closed last year in October. I did 6 years in the United States Marine Corps.
Wow, 6 years.
Yeah, so I was about a year and a half, 2 years in active duty status, and then I became a reservist because I wanted to come back. I want to be closer to home. I want to make sure my grandmother was okay and all the family I had out here. So, but you know, just like you're saying, you know, just based off my lifestyle, I just continued to jump into chaotic career fields. You know, like I just continued to do that. So one of my first jobs back, I was security, and I was security in UMDMJ, University Hospital in Newark. I was #1 trauma center in the state of New Jersey. I was about 21 years old, and I was placed because of my military background. I was placed in the psychiatric department.
Oh yeah, you told me that psychiatric hospitals are a whole different lifestyle when you're in it.
Exactly, it's different.
It's a different
ball game.
Some funny business.
Yeah, it's different. From the people that come in, from the nurses, the doctors, it's just completely different. Especially in the heart of Newark. Like Newark is just a different type of entity.
Do you think that being in the psychiatric hospital kind of made you kind of cuckoo?
At times, I was there for a year, working night shift. So at some point, I told my LT, like, yo, you got to get me out of here, bro. Like, I can't do this anymore.
But how would it be working in that surrounding? Like, you would just see your clients and patients everywhere. Like,
basically, it went like this. There was 6 rooms. So there was 3 rooms on the right side, 3 rooms on the left side. I was behind the desk with the nurse and the screener, and I just scanned the cameras, and there was a psych doctor and screeners in the background. So basically, every patient that came in, they screened them, they spoke to them, try to, identify their condition, whether it was schizophrenia, whether it was depression, whether they had suicidal ideation, homicidal ideations. So this is what I was dealing with at the age of 21. I was thinking, I was like, yo, this is a lot,
You've been handling a lot of emotional baggages from the age of since you were born.
Yeah, straight. And that's why I felt like I was destined to be on this path, and that's why I just kept on, throwing myself in this, people look at me like, oh, this guy's an adrenaline junkie, or I just kept on just throwing myself into these situations. And eventually when I was there about a year, people took note of it. Like my supervisor took note of it. The police officers that did come to help out and respond to certain situations, because tell me, guess what? Like when I was in there in the crisis department, you know, it was just me with a radio, and I had to protect everybody around me. All I had was lightning and thunder. Like, so like I was like, yo, this is a lot. I'm 21 years old. I'm dealing with people that I've never been in this field in my life. This is like my 3rd month working security, and I'm fucking like out here. Like, damn. So it was a lot. But they noticed that and they took note of it. And then down the line, I got a promotion, and they promoted me. I had to go through a couple phases. They promoted me to become a police officer. So I had to go through like various background checks, family checks, house calls, psychiatric tests, physical tests, and then eventually they enrolled me into the police academy. And by that time, you know, I was already Marine. So that was cake for me. Like I did that. It was 6 months. Marines is 3 months, but that 3 months felt way longer than that 6. Because I'm home. You know, it's that 6 months of the police academy. I'm home. You know, I get to see my family every night. That Marine Corps boot camp in Paris Island, that's a different type of breed. You don't get to speak to anybody. You're writing hand mail.
That's like Naked and Afraid live, you know?
Yeah. You have nobody. You have nobody. You have complete strangers that you have never met, and you have to build this camaraderie.
It's not like you're like physically naked, but you're emotionally naked.
Yes.
You're like,
so vulnerable. You're like, oh man,
you're giving your life away to people that you don't even know. Just met.
I'm gonna have to trust you with my life, man. I don't even know you, bro. Like you're from the other side of the world. Dudes coming from Cali, from Hawaii, North Carolina, Massachusetts, like all over the world. And that's the beautiful thing about it. It's to experience the people I got to meet, you know, throughout that time. Like I got to meet amazing people. You know, some people I lost contact with and I never get to speak to them again, but I learned things from them that I never got to learn from anyone else, you know, and I take it with me with my journey.
What was the most positive thing that you think military training and all of that chapter in life taught you?
It gave me structure and discipline. It gave me lots of structure and discipline in everyday life, you know, the things I do in my everyday life. It gave me structure and discipline, knowing like this is according to this and understanding time management and understanding how should I go about certain things and remain to have a bearing, you know, around certain situations, certain people. Don't lose my cool, stay cool, you know. So that's what it gave me, and that's what I took from it, and you know, I've been using it ever since.
Right. Okay. Look at you. Military training teaches you guys a lot. Shout out to all the veterans again, one more time. So let's talk about your creative journey now. You joined the police department after the military. Yeah. You told me that there were some things in the police department that you just felt like this wasn't you again. Yeah.
There was a lot of first of all, I was the youngest in my police department. I was 22 years old in my police department. So I was the youngest. Certain people felt like I shouldn't be there because I was so young. And other people were like, yo, all right, cool. You know, we're part of the team. But I saw a lot of power tripping, you know, a lot of people were power tripping. A lot of people weren't doing the right thing and I wasn't feeling the vibes. You know, like, and as the journey went on and the stuff that I was going through in my life, my personal life, it kind of like meshed with my career. So I was just like, man, you gotta go. So right. I ended up resigning. You know, I ended up leaving and, you know, try to figure out something else.
Yeah, that was the best decision he could have done, I think, for yourself, for your emotional sanity.
Yes, exactly. It's not all about like the career.
And the money.
Yeah, it's about the money because a lot of people saw it, you know, even the certain family members, you know, tell me to this day, like, yo, you gave up a great career, a great job, but like if it doesn't fit you, bro, don't do it, man. Like if it costs you your mental health, don't do it. Don't.
I agree 100% with that because I was 21. I was the youngest in my store that got a job at AT&T Mobility at the time. I was working and I was the youngest rep. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids and everybody in the store was. So everybody was like well over 30. Yeah. And I was like 25 and up basically. And I was like 21. Yeah. They're like, who's this girl? Why is she here? Like, but you know, people gonna always hate, you know, and that's the truth. So when I came in, I was like fresh hot and I was just trying to do what I got to do. At first, I couldn't grasp the sales concepts, and then I started grasping it a little bit more. But yeah, a lot of them didn't appreciate the fact that I was 21 working with them. Give me a little hard time, you know what I'm saying? It'd be like that.
Yeah, it is.
The power trip positions, there's a lot of people out there that work on power trips for sure, and the cops are definitely high up there on that. And politics.
Yeah, politics in itself. That was just fucking,
Politics.
that being a part of the department was nothing but politics every day.
Oh yeah. He's like, oh yeah.
Every day. Even when I was security, because I was security and I was part of the department, and that's how I was inside. I was the inside guy. So they sent me from security position and promoted me to become a police officer. But I was the only one that did that. Everybody else was outside.
Right.
All the recruits out of I believe about 2,000 candidates.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the 4 people to make it.
Right.
Yeah. So I was the only inside guy though.
Right.
So I kind of like knew my environment. I kind of knew what I was dealing with already.
Mm-hmm.
These people were just from South Jersey, from like people they don't know nothing about Newark. Nothing about Patterson, nothing about Elizabeth. Like they've never been in the hood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was looking at it from, inside looking out, and they were looking from a different perspective. So, I brought that knowledge to the table.
Not for nothing. I realized that when people come from the trenches and in the cut, we tend to put our whole fire and drive into that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I've been visiting a lot of open mics, and boy, let me tell you. I could tell when people are from our areas.
Off the rip. When you initially see them,
we be getting hyped.
Just the energy that they bring off.
Before they even grab the mic, you can just
like,
yo, this guy's gonna kill it. This girl's gonna kill it. Like, yo, I respect the hustle. I'm not mad.
Definitely.
It makes me happy, to be honest, because it's good to represent individuals who are real about what they are, like what they stand for. Like it's really rare, especially in an industry where there's a lot of narcissism.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's hard to tell between the real ones and the fake ones. So yeah, when you're real and you're about your craft and you're about your work, you don't care about what other people say, and you're just working and grinding. I love that energy, and I think a lot of us urban kids bring that for sure. So shout out.
Shout out to all the urban kids.
Shout out, yeah. Like, but let's talk about now that we got all your life together. Woo! I want to talk about when at that age, growing up in all of this lifestyle, not having your grandparent, around, your grandfather, your mom, all those people that you currently, lost, right? Mm-hmm. Each one or each time in these phases of life, like when was it what was the first craft that you picked up actually? Was it poetry? Was it art? And when did you like use that as an outlet to escape from all of these transitions like in life? Like when was that first age, that first moment?
All right. So my first time I ever drew any type of sketch or any type of thing, I was about 7 years old. So my family, we are all very visual, artistic artists. Like
it runs in your family.
It runs in my family. One of my uncles, he's a legendary graffiti artist out here, and
shout out.
Yeah, shout out to Type.
Okay.
That's my brother right there. Shout out to Emo, Veer, the whole crew, SFG, MHS, all that. SFC.
And you're wearing also a merch for one of your friends.
Yeah. I'm wearing Get Lost merch. Get Lost. I would support him. He came to one of my first events. I support him fully.
I like that merch. It says "Find Yourself" on it. I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my first outlet was actual visual arts. So like I was like 7 years old. I remember my uncle, he left that day with a couple of his friends. He was a teenager at the time, probably like 16, 17. I was young. I was probably like 5 or something, like 6, 7. And he left, and I saw him like drawing in his black book and his graffiti. He was drawing, and he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna hit this up on this spot and do this, that." And I'm like, all right. So I stayed home that day, and I was just like, I'm going to try to draw. And the first ever thing I drew was this Cartoon Network show. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. It's called Ed, Edd and Eddy.
Okay.
So I drew
I can't with you. You sounded like you were older.
Yeah, I mean, certain people might not know it,
Yeah, I know. It's just that I'm in denial. I'm getting old. Okay, that's all. Yeah, Ed and Eddy was around my time too. Okay.
Yeah, and I drew I drew Eddie with a big jawbreaker in his mouth, and I remember I would never forget the feeling I felt when my uncle that inspired me to draw came that night. He was like, "Yo, you drew this?" And he started showing all his friends, like, "Yo, look at what he did! Like, look what he drew this." He's like 7. And he was shocked how close in comparison to the way it looked. He was like, "Yo, like, you got talent."
That's dope. So you continued drawing after that?
So basically, it kind of slowed down a little bit throughout my time, but it was always there. You know, any type of, it was kind of like my coping mechanism. You know, like anytime I felt like depressed or sad or angry, I would like express it through my art, and it was kind of therapeutic to me. So art therapy. So I would always draw here and there. Throughout high school, I drew a lot. You know, especially during certain competitions and stuff like that. You know, I was drawing, and then it just disappeared. You know, like when I started, you know, getting to the point where I felt like, you know, after finding out about my father, it just kind of went down spiral, and I just stopped art completely. And then I didn't really pick up back again until I became a police officer, and I realized like I was sitting at not even a police officer, when I was security in a crisis. I remember when I was security there, I remember certain nights it'll be very quiet. You know, there certain nights nobody be in there, probably one person just sleeping, and I remember just drawing with just black ink pen. I'm just drawing. I mean, I was drawing, and then I had like you know, nurses, psychologists, psychiatric team, and all coming up to me like, "Yo, can you draw me this and draw me that?" And I was drawing people, all the hospital, just drawing stuff just for the fun of it, just to get my craft up. And I was like, "Yo," like I started to really think like that's what resonated with me the most in every part of my life, whether I was in the streets, whether I was military, whether I was just a police officer, whatever it was always resonating with me. So I stuck with it. But I didn't really get into it fully to actually join the scene because I was never a part of the scene. I didn't really have my artwork displayed publicly until March of last year.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, March of last year. So
you had created upon within that period and waited till March of last year to release your stuff.
Yeah, it's not like I waited. I felt like it was the appropriate time. Like it just kind of fell on my lap. You mean like I didn't? It's not like, oh, I'm gonna wait and then I'm gonna feel the right time to drop it, because I didn't think of it like as anything. Like I was just like, all right, this is just my hobby. I'm not gonna, you know, I love it, but like you know, this is just my hobby. I'm not gonna pursue it. You know, because at a young age, I had certain like family members tell me like, yo,
you shouldn't pursue it.
You shouldn't pursue it.
And
then like I said, like a lot of my family are artists. You know what I mean? Like so
why would they push you away from it? Because of their own fears.
Exactly.
And their own doubts.
And that's exactly what I was gonna, you know, jump into. And a lot of people like to project their fears upon others, you know, and it's just like, yo, you can't do it. You can't do this. You can't do that. You shouldn't do it. You should go this route. You should stay away from that. But at the end of the day, I'm not you, man. We're two different people. Just because it didn't work for you, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not gonna work for me. So you know that
you still got to be true to yourself and still believe in yourself, because that's one thing that a lot of the greats and the legends now, the major companies that they have now, they started off that same way. They started off with people joking at them and saying, "Oh, look, Apple." See how long this is gonna last. Microsoft has been around for years, and it ended up beating them years later. And it started in the garage. But what did he do to get out of the garage? And a lot of people miss that point, because there's a lot of hard work that's not displayed or showed.
Yeah,
there's a lot of drive. Like I look up to motivational speakers now because I'm an aspiring motivational speaker, and Eric Thomas is one of the top 10 in the world, and he's an African-American man. God bless that man. He has a wife, children, bless his family. But he even said it. He's like, there's some people who desire that image, who really want it, and who say, oh my God, I desire it. I want this so bad. But it sounds cute, and you just saying it, but you're not really putting in the work.
Yeah, you got to put it in action.
You're not really putting in the work. You just sitting there. I'll get to it next week. I'll get to it in 2 days. Your business and your time, you don't have 2 days. You don't have next week.
Exactly.
Work now. Don't sleep till 2 o'clock in the afternoon every day. Wake up. The best success happens like when you're up, when you're not sleeping, when everybody's sleeping. It'll be 3 a.m. Wake up at 3 a.m. Do your work, reflect, do something that will get to that next goal, that next thing to achieve, right? And how are we going to do that if we're not taking that time? A lot of successful people work out, they meditate, they put in self-care. Yeah. Besides also investing in their business, right? So we got to take on that same thing. It's about our well-being. And a lot of people miss that mark. They care about the money. They get lost in the workaholicism. And I don't even know if that's a word, but yeah, I'm going to say it. Workaholicism. They get lost in the work. They get lost in the sauce, and they lose themselves with the money.
Yes.
The money now defines them. The money. And now when they find themselves in this like place where they're like following orders and they've just been this machine and they're not happy there, they like, for some reason, that time is when they do that shift and that change. And it's at that point, it's too late. They're already consumed by it. This is all they know. How can I get a new job? How can I get out of this? This is the only job that gave me this money. I'm afraid of letting it go, because if I let it go, all this money that I used to have is not going to be there no more. So how am I going to aspire my craft and my dreams if I don't even have a stable income? Exactly. So that becomes another wall we got to hit as creatives. It's very challenging.
Yes, it is.
But you still got to do it.
You got to push through that. You got to push through that.
Nothing can limit, because your family puts that as an excuse. Your friends who you surround yourself by may put that as an excuse. And like he said, that whole thing of you got to be careful who you surround yourself with, because some people like to project their fears and doubts on you. Just because they feel like they won't do it or achieve it, they're going to tell you that same thing. Don't you dare believe them. If this is what your heart said and this is what you felt since you were like 7, because clearly he's been drawing since that age, right? And we deviated from that hobby.
Yes. Because
of life.
Yes.
Because of life's pain, because of life's blows. And I wouldn't blame you for that, because you at a very young age going through all of that, like, bro, I commend you. I respect it. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because your story can touch and impact people. Because there's a lot of people out here that put excuses on deadbeats, that put excuses on just the smallest things. But they haven't even lost the amount of people that you lost, or lost the amount of people that a 5-year-old in Syria right now lost.
Exactly. And there's people that has much worse than we do, much worse than I do, much worse than you do. You gotta look back. You gotta take a step back and realize that and understand that. Right,
because as millennials, because we are part of the Millennial Generation, okay, from 19 to like 35, the late 30s, that's the Millennial Generation. We like to always make it about us, entitlement, unfortunately. Like, we like to think that we're the only ones that gone through it. We like to think that it's our only problem and we got it way worse than everyone else. And not just millennials, everyone has a stage in life where they do that and they get out of that. But I feel like we millennials have an issue with getting out of that phase of entitlement, because that's all we were brought up on with all the technologies is being entitled, centering us as the attention, right? And like making it a thing, so that when I do expose it and it's not a thing, it's a situation, it's an issue. And now I'm going to say that I'm entitled to have this attention. I'm entitled to have this position.
Yeah.
But what did you do to work up to get this? And that's what millennials miss. They see they see all of these successful people. I see Eric Thomas, right? Aspiring person, Michael Jackson. But what did Michael Jackson do to get to Michael Jackson? Let me tell you, he had to do a lot. He had a father who literally worked him to death. But he eventually, he could have said, I'm tired of this life. I'm not going to do music no more.
He could have just left.
And he was known as Michael Jackson from the Jackson 5. He was the best one. And even into his teens, bro, until he was like in his teens and until he came out with Off the Wall. That's when he first set the MJ tone. Off the Wall was like the image of Michael Jackson. He is no longer Michael Jackson from the Jackson 5. This guy is Michael Jackson.
Standalone Michael Jackson. Right. As an individual by himself.
Had put that album out and it was an introduction. And he would spend time by himself while he would be touring with his brothers. He would spend time aside to put in time for his creativity to create this image of MJ. He said, the world will know my name and MJ will be my initials and I will be Michael Jackson. He said that on his notebook on the way to one of his tours with the Jackson 5 at the time. And he sure manifested that and made that a thing. You just got to believe in yourself. Albert Einstein, he was a crazy among scientists, bro. But what was his main his main thing and his foundation is that he believed in himself no matter what the doubters, the fear, the life, the tribulation, the money, the fine. It didn't matter to him. He had set a purpose. I believe in myself and I will be Albert Einstein, right? Mm-hmm. And I will believe in my work, and this work is going to change the universe, the world, right? Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what he did. Yeah. Generations later, like, yo, comic too. Comics, like, yo, it's crazy. Stan Lee, he's a genius. He was just creating comics in his room, for crying out loud. He wasn't even getting paid. And now he's rich and he's dead. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make any sense. It's like, but they believed in themselves. Every single one of them had that category, and they were consistent.
Yes, consistency is key.
Because they believed in themselves.
Yes.
Even though people were saying, "Oh, they released this dialopsis or this hypothesis, and I don't know if it's really true. You know, the the numbers don't look right." He still dropped it. It didn't matter. He still dropped his thesis.
Regardless.
He still dropped his statement.
Regardless of how others perceive
yes.
him. That is true authenticity right there.
Yes. He wasn't trying to be like the other scientists. Yes. He wasn't trying to adapt or conform. He was standing out and he was being himself. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how successful influencers, motivators, and people who are on TV make it. Because they're not trying to live out an image. They live this. Mm-hmm. We live this. Cardi B, yo, she looked as a fool. I don't care. I literally judged her when she came up. She coming out of Love and Hip Hop. Where you going? Mm-hmm. Where you going, sis? That's exactly how I looked at her. I was like, okay, I'm going to see you. But then when she came out with
Bodak Yellow,
yes. I was like, all right, I see you. I respect it. That's when I respected her. That was her third single drop, though. You see how long it took for her to get that.
Actually hit, yeah.
And not only that, she could have been like every other person in Love and Hip Hop and not done the whole music thing. Mm-hmm. She could have just taken, okay, I'm going to take my check.
Mm-hmm. And left it behind.
Mm-hmm. But she believed in herself, even though everyone was judging her like, oh, she coming out of Love and Hip Hop. We're going to laugh at this. Mm-hmm. Nicki Minaj was up in the rising at the time, and she was dogging her too. Like, ha, she going to make a fool out of herself. I'm going to dog her too. Mm-hmm. Yo, she was crazy. Trash. And then she look at her now. Look at her the fuck now. And I can tell you that that's because she's her true, authentic self. Since she has been in the limelight, doesn't matter. She has not changed. She is who she is. She's authentic and she's talented. And she is not afraid to show other talented females. That's a true example of it.
Exactly.
he's like, exactly. So I feel like a lot of us creators just need to definitely practice that in due time. You know what I'm saying? We're still practicing that ourselves right now. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, we getting
there. Step by step, little by little.
There, you know what I'm saying? So how did poetry start? Like what age?
Oh, poetry. Oh, man. I say when I was in high school. Yeah, it started when I was in high school. I didn't even know I could do poetry. It was like some type of haiku or something like I did for class. Mm-hmm. And I wrote it from my English teacher. And, you know, I wrote it. And out of all the people that did the poetry, you know, because I talk, you know, my poems are more personal, you know, than anything. That's what I notice. You know, it's mainly my own personal journey, my poetry.
Shout out to Rachel Wagner. She's a poet from North too. Her poems are really raw and are really about her experiences too. Mm-hmm. Same thing. Mm-hmm. And she don't be caring. She be out here. She has this one called Pill Poppin' Animal. Talk about ecstasy pills. Talk about Xannies. Talk about abortion pills. All that mixed in one. She really be about here. She's about prison abolition. She speaks a lot on that because she has her baby daddy's locked up and has been locked up for years. So yeah, so she's just really like you could tell that she's been through it. And when I first heard her pieces, I was like, yo,
you can feel it. You can feel it through the words.
I gotta have you on, and she came on. Yeah. She wrote like 3 books. Mm-hmm. Shout out to her.
Shout out.
Yeah, definitely. And she has like this $10 book thing where she sells books for $10, like a website and stuff. So she's just trying to promote other art authors and other poets and just all coming together. Like, it's really cool. And I like when poets can speak from their pain and their heart and their traumas and not be ashamed of what the reaction is of your audience when you deliver it. And you do the same thing too.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Like he has, I think the Gemini.
Yeah, it's called two sides of the same coin. Yeah. It's like a personal internal battle, I believe, that a lot of people deal with on the everyday life, and it's just kind of like throwing my own personal taste into it. But
give us like one little verse from it that kind of ties into what you said today about your life. Like from that piece that you that specifically like always stood out to you since you wrote it.
Since I wrote it,
yeah. What was that line?
I believe like, cause I mean it's jumping from character to character. You know, it's two different characters, and I'm trying to remember right now in my head. You know, I'm just trying to go through and recite it.
Yeah, no rush. Take your time.
Oh yeah. So basically, one of the first lines is when I say, every time I blink, it gives me time to think. What side of me must be shown? The pleasant and outspoken, or the wild and out of focus? So I feel like I was in an internal battle with myself. With kind of like, it's like the evil demon side and the angel side just kind of constantly battling against each other. So that line stood out to me the most, because I feel like I always had the internal battle, especially being like in this chaotic world, you know, being surrounded by this entire life. I felt like I always had to choose the dark path, but I really didn't want to resonate with that. That's not where it resonated. So I was trying to get to the light, and I always, you know, this is something I always say, like like a lot of people say they're the black sheep of the family. I feel like everybody else was kind of like black sheep, and I was the white, and I was the one that's emitting the light. You know, like I was the one basically letting my light shine the entire time.
Dang. Yo, that's crazy. So you always felt like you were the one that was always constantly letting your light shine.
Yeah, constantly.
Having the torch.
Yeah, having the torch, and like making my family, like, you know, look at my family, like, yo, like we're doing this, you know, like I'm doing this for my family.
Shout out to all the people that are the torches in their family. It's a tough position, because you're trying to beat behavioral subconscious patterns that your family is already automatically like used to and prone to, that they don't even notice their own habit, their behavior that they should change or alter or enhance in a sense. So it's like we're like seeing it for what it is. We are no longer blinded to it. So we're literally the torch. We're literally the ones with like, yo, are you guys all not seeing this? Like, am I the only one? Like, what's going on? See it, guys. See
exactly.
it. See
exactly.
it. And they're not. So those situations, you could either, as a family, decide, let's do individual therapy and then do family therapy. Because there's some things that aren't really ready for certain individuals in your family to open up in front of everybody yet, until they specifically healed from that specific wound. Because you're dealing with a lot of generational curses here. You're dealing with, let's be real, addictions, drugs, alcohol, and then you're dealing with molestation, possibly, because molestation runs deep in fam. So,
yeah.
Doesn't matter. That's definitely there.
Yeah.
So
domestic and all that. It's a lot.
It's a lot of things that definitely trickle down that kind of bring you to those same habits, but it's up to us, the people with the torches. Once we acknowledge it, we change it ourselves, and then we want our whole family to join us, because we feel free. We feel liberated. We feel like they should be in this too, you know, because we care for them. We want what's best for them. But what do you do when that person that you care about isn't ready to take that step for themselves yet? You just let them be and let them rock. Let them take that time that they need, and hopefully they'll come around when they're ready. But you can't force anybody's healing journey. That's one thing that I've realized. And the healing journey never ends. It's always something you got to heal from. Always.
At a constant.
Always at a constant. I'm not perfect. I just like talking about emotional awareness. Okay. Like, and self-awareness. But I have my days. Like this week, right now, doing this podcast, we should not be doing this podcast. But
yeah, it's true. I got a funeral tomorrow. You know, like I got.
Yeah, you know, like we both shouldn't be doing this right now.
It's a lot going on in my life, but you know, I'm here.
There's always chaos that ran our lives. I feel, and that's what I wanted to name this episode. Is not chaos. I wanted to name it like building independence and learning the independence. So like at a very young age, like how was it? Endurance, literally, and independence at all of our whole lives, basically. Like we had to emotionally be independent for our own selves and like parent ourselves, kind of.
Yeah, basically.
With no emotional direction and just figuring it out ourselves.
Yeah, gotta guide it, and that's the whole. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I decided to join the military and decided to join all these things, because I felt like I needed some type of structure, and I didn't have too much of that. So it kind of guided me in the right direction, so I got my own self-independence. Do it alone. So it built me up, to who I am today.
Yeah, that's crazy. I love how you didn't allow anything of your life to hinder you right now in the future for what you have going on, and that's very important, especially with your story. I for some reason when I saw Freedom for the second time, I thought he was a father. I remember that time. I was like, yeah. Aren't you like a father too? Like, and I used to talk him up, like, cause I always do that. I hype. I'm a big gasser. Like I gas all of my friends. So there was this one time I'll be talking about you, and I'm like, yo, he has a crazy story, man. Like, like you guys need to hear it. Like Freedom, bro, and he got a kid. Like, they would be like, damn,
we got a kid too. Like, what?
They're like, damn, brother, the brother's struggling. Like, I'm like, nah. Because like there's some people that I meet that be like, yo, I love art, and I'm not an artist, so I always like give you guys, like bring you all the artists, all of my friends that are drawers, that are tattoo artists, that are out here doing their thing. I always bring you guys as an example, because I'm like, nah, because look, like this guy over here, he's older than you and he's doing his thing, and this guy over here is young as hell and he's started up his photography company. So what's really holding you back?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's yourself.
Ooh, and that's real. That's a real thing right there. Gaining independence, you learn accountability, and I think him and I have learned accountability in ourselves at a very young age. We weren't afraid to hold ourselves accountable for that mistake eventually. Yeah. Whether it was, whether if you had to go through a couple of trials and cycles with your uncles to get there, regardless, you yourself had to take yourself through that that path to learn your lesson. And you learned it, because if you didn't, you wouldn't have found anything wrong with that freedom.
Exactly.
That freedom you said wasn't freedom, right? That freedom was somebody else.
Oh yeah, it was a different person.
Yeah. He's like, we outgrew that freedom.
I'm past that now.
I'm past that freedom. Yeah. Oh yay.
Once I let me give you the story of how I how it really became freedom, the day I, so basically it happened last year around March.
Okay.
I went through this very huge spiritual awakening in my life. And that's when I first started to jump into art. I created this Instagram, and I was like, yo, I want to do art. I did like this birthday 90s bash with one of my co-partners, VQ. So, me and VQ will go way back for like years now.
Shout out, that's my homegirl.
Shout out to VQ, yo. It's the sis right there.
Yeah,
but yeah, we did this big birthday bash, this 90s bash. And, that's the first time I ever presented my artwork in front of a crowd. And, it was just for a birthday bash. It wasn't like events or selling anything. So, I did that, and I was creating. And then as time went on, when I left the police job, I was like, yo, I want to do something more along the lines of what I really want to do and go with my passion. So I started to jump into like freelance visual artist. So, I started creating merch. I created a couple hats that I had, a couple shirts.
You just did it off a whim because, again, people saw your artwork, they liked it, and you were like, you know what? Let me level it up again. Remember that, taking a chance. So you leveled it up by adding it on merch.
Exactly. I just kind of jumped in
and took a leap of faith.
Yes, the leap of faith. I just like, all right, I don't know, I don't care if I get this money or it wasn't about the money. Like it was
just about having your artwork
out there. And I
feel that.
It was great. Like it was a huge turnaround. Like I sold everything in under a week. And I remember one time specifically, the first ever art event It was out here in Patterson. A couple artists out here, like underground artists and stuff like that. They were doing their thing. I saw, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna jump on that wave and try to support every other artist and see how it really goes. So, one day I want to be a part of these events, so I'm gonna see how it goes. So I went there to Patterson, March of last year, and when I was there, I got to meet so many creatives, and it was like an
immense amount of like love and
it was just it was an eye-opening experience, and I was like, yo, this is where I belong. I found it, like it was just so much happiness that night. I was just like, yes. I brought like different pieces off of different people. I think every artist in that spot, I brought a piece, whether it was a sticker, whether it was a canvas.
I have
or
a
support.
sticker
sticker
on my laptop.
So I was over there and I was just so support, and I just kind of talked to these people and let them know who I am. And I'm like, listen, one day I'm gonna be up there on those walls too.
I think that's why there's so much light radiating out of us, because we've gone through so much pain, we've gone through so much stuff that we're not doing it for pleasing the audience. We're doing it because we actually genuinely love this craft, and we just want to touch somebody with our craft.
Yes.
Yes. It's not coming from like, I want to earn money, I want to gain attraction, I want to gain attention. It's coming from, I want this piece to touch you some way, somehow. Like, I want my artwork to speak into your life and what you're going through right now.
Oh yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head.
Yes, I feel like that's exactly how you guys represent it. That's because that's contagious to trying to be around.
Yeah, it is. It is very contagious. So that night, I felt like I finally found the place I belonged in life. I finally found my purpose, and I'm going home. That night it was great. It was a great night. I was with my boy that night. We packed everything up. I got to meet a lot of different artists. Came home with a lot of different artwork from different people, and I was driving home. And while I was driving home, I was in Patterson. I was driving home with my friend. We're going back to Elizabeth to enjoy the rest of our night. And while I was driving, somebody ran into the middle of the road.
Right.
And I hit them, like a lot of people say, like, oh, you just hit a person. No, like, I hit them like I hit a deer. Like if you were to hit a deer and damage your vehicle, like, that's what I did. Like I hit that person with, like, and I wasn't even going too fast. I had the right of way. There was no stop sign. She was jaywalking, and I hit her, and she landed onto my windshield, caved in my windshield. Her body flipped about 10 feet up in the air. It flipped and landed on the pavement right in the center of the street.
Wow. And
that's where this Gemini thing comes up, for the poem. It was like, what should I do? I had this voice on both sides of my shoulders. And I had one voice was like, leave, run. You're scared, you're fear, act out of fear, out of anxiety, run away. You can't deal with this. And the other voice was like, no, you have to stay and make sure she survives. Make sure she's okay. Regardless of what's going to happen, take everything on the chin. So, what I did was I popped my e-brake. I jumped out of the car, and I told my friend, yo, call 911. Her body was contorted on the floor, on the street, and I fixed up her body. And, I noticed she had blood coming out of her face. Mad shit was going on, and there's people yelling. There's lights, people beeping behind me. And I'm just like, yo, like, call 911. I ran to her, and, I used to be a police officer in the Marine, so I know CPR. So, I went over there and, started doing chest compressions, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And, after a few pumps, I was like, yo, she's not, you're going to survive. I was talking to her through it. I saw her eyes, going back in her head, going back and forth. And, I'm just doing these chest compressions, I'm like, yo, you got to survive. You're going to live. You're going to live. And it was a heart-wrenching moment. My heart was like this.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm just like, yo, like, you're going to survive this. And then so I was just, eventually I did one of the mouth-to-mouth resuscitations. And then she got this big full air. She started breathing. And I was like, yo, she's alive. She's alive. And then I hear the sirens in the background. police ambulance coming, and I'm just like, you know, everything felt like a nightmare, like a dream. I'm like, yo, I can't believe I'm going through this right now. And you know, the cops come. I'm traumatized. You know, I'm like throwing up. I'm like, yo, like. They're like, so who's the driver of this? Yeah, like who's the driver of this car? They see me throw up on the side,
God,
like,
that's true.
I'm like, oh. They're like, you're the driver? I'm like, yeah. She's like, all right, come in the back of the car. You know, like they put me in the back of the car, didn't handcuff me. Put me in the back of the car. It was like, we're gonna figure out the situation. And you know, investigating. It was about the longest hour of my entire life sitting in that car. I had my phone on me so I could still communicate with the people I had to communicate with. So I remember the first thing I did was call my grandmother. You know, I told her, I was like, yo, I don't know if I'm gonna be going home tonight. I just ran someone over. I think I killed her, and I might be going down for vehicular manslaughter. So I was scared. You know, I was calling all my family members, all the close ones.
Letting them know what's up. Of course, that's the only thing that you can do in that time. Because you don't know what's gonna happen next. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. So I was there, and you know, while I was in back of the police car, I remember praying. I'm like, listen, you know, at that time I wasn't a believer, you know, but I was praying because, you know, when you're not a believer and you go through all this stuff,
that's your first instinct.
Their first instinct is to pray to get out of this stuff, you know.
And that's crazy because nobody wants to listen to the stories.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to listen to the actual word until shit hits the fan.
Shit hits the fan, and this is my testimony. I'm telling you guys, this is my testimony.
Yeah,
you know, like, and
in my church they call that the 911 Yahweh.
Yeah.
Yahweh means God. For those who don't know in Hebrew terminology, there was no J in the alphabet. In the biblical times, so Yahweh, Yeshua. Is Jesus, same thing. But yeah.
And
thank God.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. I literally spoke to God, and I was like, listen, like, if you could get me out of this situation, I'll change my ways. I'll change. I'll literally completely transform who I am as a person. I will not be the same person I was before. I was like, just get me out of this situation any way you can, or you could have some type of mercy on me. I will not be the person I was before. So
the 911.
Exactly, it was the 911 call.
Yeah, like no, like and even in prayer and in faith in my life, they spoke about that. They're like, oh, I'm good now. I'm happy. He blessed me. I'm good. I'm happy. And then depression hits. I get my house taken from me. I get this trauma and this trauma all at once. One after another. Now I'm going to take my buzzer out and I'm going to call help to my 911 Yahweh. I'm going to basically like, which button is it this time? Mm-hmm. I'm only talking to you when shit hits the fan. Yeah. But I'm not feeding that.
When things are going positive in your life. And
right.
When you're reaching success, when you have a good plate of food to eat, when you have a roof over your head.
And then in scriptures talks about that too. Like saying being full and still having to practice being humble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like never allowing it to literally cloud you. Like,
yes.
Because that involves pride, where you feel like you don't need his help, where you feel like you already made it and it's all right. I'm checked out. You did your job. I'm good now. Mm-hmm. I'll see you later.
Yeah. Like it never happened. So, you know, I did that. I did that prayer, and then like later on that day, they took me to the station. I got interrogated for about like 30 or 40 minutes. They told me what the situation, what happened, and they asked me like, yo, so what happened? What was going on? Where you were coming from? And just questioning me. And I told them the whole situation. She walked in the street, blah, blah, blah. And you wouldn't believe it. They sent me home that night. And I was just grateful that I was home and I was sleeping. I literally thought it was done. You know, like I was home and I was in my bed. I couldn't believe it. But it had a very traumatic effect on me because I was just like, yo, like I literally like have to own up to what I said, you know, like. But even when that happened and I spoke to the police officer, I kind of was like, yo, listen, like whatever does happen, I just want to make sure she's okay and she's alive. I mean, like I don't think I have enough. I'm a conscience. If she wasn't. And about a week later, they told me, she survived. She had every rib in her body broken, but she was alive, and she survived. And then from then on, I gave all praise due to the Most High. And from then on, and from then on, I was just like, yo, I'm gonna be living this, and there's a purpose. And I felt like it's crazy that it happened that day, because that's the first time I had experience outside in the actual art scene. And then from there, eventually started aligning myself with different people. And that's where the freedom fighters come to play.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Vision, Freedom, and VQ, they're the freedom fighters. And VQ did mention how they got together. They started doing events together. And then she started coming out, and then she started meeting other people. She's like, wait a minute, like I could do something like this too. Yeah. They're really good. I told them on that episode, like, this team is very genuine, very authentic, and they're about like enhancing and helping others in this craft. So if there's any like young artists out there, that need some guidance, or just are stuck, want to start photography, want to start art, but don't know where to go, Freedom Fighters is the space for you.
Yes.
It really is.
We try to help all collectives, whether if you're just starting, it's your first time, or you've been in this game for years. Like, we just try to make a melting pot,
100%. And it's important because there's not a lot of genuine groups that are out there that are genuinely doing this. There's some people who pose to be genuine groups like this and aren't. So these are true people. I back them up. They're on Reflections for a reason. Okay. So you guys could definitely trust them. Definitely good mentors as well for anyone who may be lost. I think Vision and I did a Bible study on IG Live, and we had touched like 5 people's lives through that IG Live. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, like a lot of questions that I thought a lot of people would not have the balls to asked it. And like saying how, if God is really for me and this Most High is really for me, why do I feel like guilty? Why do I feel like I'm doing him wrong? Like I'm not doing him a service. Like I feel like church and all these religions made me seem like my music, that what I do, right? Shout out to my Grande Life, because he was the one who said it. And he was saying that because he was brought up in church, and his church made it seem like his music was of the world and was not right, even though he felt like it was, because it was speaking from his experiences and his life. It just because it wasn't about God or Jesus doesn't mean that it's not a good song. Yeah. And I felt that. I was like, bro, I feel you. And I also was brought up in a church like that. But like Hebrewism and following scripture, it should not be a religion.
Yes.
It should not.
Yes.
Religion. Following scripture should not be a religion.
Yes.
It should just be your own personal, close-knit, intimate relationship with the Heavenly Father that no brother in us should judge or come in the way of. And that's what scripture says, not to judge brethren or not to judge ourselves, but we don't take it so literal, but they're quick to take it literal when they're in an organization and under a church.
Yeah, under a church, and it's that division. And
it's that power trip energy.
Power trip, exactly. It runs around full circle, whether it's the government, whether it's the religion, it goes full circle.
And scripture does mention that too, that there will be prophets.
All of this.
There will be false prophets. There will be people saying all these wrong things, clementation going around, and that's exactly what's happening in these times. It is what it is. And I feel like people should get close to their God. Whoever that God is to you, just get close to him at these times, because 2020 is hitting different.
It's been hitting real different. It's been hitting real different. I could put that as my testimony. I just recently lost my grandmother, just about a month ago,
Yeah.
And then right after that, I lost my uncle. Like I said, I have a funeral tomorrow, and I have to bury him, before this. But I feel like this is very spiritual that I'm even on the show, and being able to have the courage to come up here and speak my truth.
No, I respect it, bro. You definitely opened up. You said a lot of things that I hope a lot of people don't take into one ear and not the other.
Yeah. Just
hear him. Like, don't take life for granted. I think that's one thing that life taught you from March to now.
Yeah, it taught me a lot. I went on my hiatus, jumping off of social media and trying to really have this mindfulness about life, and because a lot of things about social media, sometimes we compare each other. And people don't realize, like, it's just kind of like a highlight reel of each other's lives.
It's a highlight reel, yeah, for sure. And a lot of people like to pose their best selves on social media. Yes. So also take that into consideration. So don't let this girl who seems like she's got herself together affect your personal journey.
Exactly.
And put you into the depressed state because she's doing more than you, or seems to be more proactive than you. I don't feel like that should stop anybody from creating and still pursuing.
Because in today's society,
it's a lot of share and compare.
Yeah, share and compare, and it's perception is reality. In most people's everyday life is perception's reality. Oh, this person's doing this, so this is how they're living their life. But you don't really see the behind the scenes, what they're going through.
Damn.
Like if I never came up here, you probably would never understood my story or got my story.
Yeah,
I thought I was just a visual artist that did events. That's it.
To be honest, that's what I first thought when I first met you. You seemed to be this like bubbly person, just like me, and one who was true and genuine. But I didn't know that you had a story behind you until I heard your poetries.
Yeah,
and I was like, yeah,
and that's exactly.
He's been through the trenches.
Yeah, that's exactly what the poetry is for. Like to maybe it'll tap in someone and resonate with them, and they can feel that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So that's when I was like, all right, I need to have him. Yeah, I wasn't even on a podcast. I was just like, yo, this guy is talented.
Yeah, that was before her podcast. We met like a year and a half, about a year and a half ago.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
it was before the podcast. I was co-running an event, and that was when I met him. That was our first interaction. And I remember, like, I just felt pure, genuine authenticity. And same with me, Yeah,
definitely. I felt that. I was like, yo, she's cool. I definitely like to get to know her more, understand her story. And, the way you sing was very soulful and touched me.
Yeah.
I understand, like, all right, that's why her name is Soulful Val.
Vision was literally, like, we, like, make fun of Vision because he does this point.
Yeah, he does this certain point. There's a certain point
with the eye and everything. With
the eye.
Yeah. So that's exactly what he was like. Yo, when I first heard you, I was like, this one coming from pain. He said it's coming from pain. I was like, oh, really? Because I really, really tried to make it about someone being impacted, just as he does. With our artwork, with our craft. Right? We want somebody to be touched. We're not doing it for our own gain.
Yeah.
I wish I had a passion for something else sometimes, because in this industry and what I chose and what is my passion can be a little hard to get to at the end of it. And same thing with him, but it's what we love. And that's why we're doing it. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing to it. It's not a secret. It's not like, okay, no, it's just like you genuinely absolutely love it.
And so that's what we're doing it. We're putting
our work definitely in. I mean, is there anything before we go? I just always ask a question. Is there anything that you advise someone that may have gone up through those hardships?
Yes.
A young brother that's out here trying to seek himself. What is that thing that you would say to him? Advice.
Listen, this advice, I'm going to give you guys, it's something that, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff from through my life as you hear my story. And all I can say is to you guys, all that pain you're feeling, all that sorrow, the depression, turn that into your purpose. All that pain, make that into your passion. Keep on moving forward and persevere. You have to have faith, but not only faith, but you have to work. You have to work behind that. You have to put work behind that faith and keep on going, regardless of what people think about you, their perceptions, all that. Keep going. Keep moving forward. Let your light shine.
Yes, I wrote a song called "Let Your Light Shine."
I can't wait till that drops and we bumping it all the time.
Go let your light. Yes, let your light shine. Don't be afraid. Be vibrant.
Yes.
Be vocal.
Yes.
Be yourself.
Yes.
Unapologetic.
Yes.
About it. Okay. You were meant for this. This is you. This is your light. This is your purpose. And don't feed into the negativity that other people throw at you. Be the example always
and all the time.
Yeah, vibrate higher.
Yeah, higher vibrations. And then that's another thing. Peep the people you're around. Peep the energy.
Peep that energy.
Peep that energy that's in your life, because they can be either vampiric and they can drain you of energy, or that can uplift you.
Right. So be aware of those surroundings. That's a good advice, especially to young creatives finding themselves. Don't sink yourselves into a lot of things sound promising. A lot of things sound like, oh, that's going to be a good move for me. But just be mindful of that good move. Be mindful of that energy that's coming out. I said that on one of my Twitters. I said, peep the way people respond to your good news. You got to. You have to. That's how you know how that energy is in a person. Because if you're elevating and you're pursuing and you're being successful in your career, your genuine person who is authentic would be genuinely happy for you, who vibrates in that same frequency. But if you have someone who vibrates lower and is just negative,
envious,
they're gonna come from an envious place and say, no, you shouldn't do that. Why are you gonna do that? That sounds stupid. Like,
project their fears upon you, like we were saying.
Correct. So when you have good news, just peep your friends, peep your family too.
Yeah, be close. Just be mindful.
Yes, you could still love someone and have boundaries.
Yes, of course.
Just for a season. Just because right now you're not sitting in this path that I'm trying to elevate in, and I feel like it's gonna stop me. You have that's about self-care. You have the right to be like, I love you and I care for you, but out of respect right now, I can't be in the same
I have to
vibe.
love you from afar.
And out of respect, I'm just letting you know this is why I'm gonna be distant, because I've been trying and I just feel like it's been holding me back. And I had to do that. Like last year I did that with my family, because I felt like my family was not believing me in this whole like, oh, you're going to do a podcast? Like, what is that about? Like, there's so many. Like, why are you going to do one? You know, what's going to be the success in it? Like, that's all they kept on throwing at me, bro. And they just is like seeing me as, because I know I'm Val to you guys, but I'm Michelle. So they kept on seeing me as Michelle, like this little Michelle. Look at her trying to speak like she always does.
Yeah.
They still saw me as this little girl.
Yeah, that's very relatable to me too. Like as far as my family, they look at me as like, oh,
little freedom.
Yeah, little freedom. That's not that's they don't see where I'm at right now. Right. Regardless of all the accomplishments I did, you know.
Yeah. They're not going to, because they're only going to see us from the past pain, from the past trials. Or from that time when we were growing up together, and your characteristics. Like, you always going to be like that. You're not going to change that. And it's like, no, I have outgrown this place. You just haven't taken the time to get to know me, to know that I've outgrown that place, and that's not necessarily me anymore. I'm a new and improved Val.
Exactly. You don't need to be the same person every day.
Correct.
Every day you become someone different.
You can define who you are, and you can believe in that, and just stick it through and through. But yeah, thank you for coming on. Damn, this was so awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Let me just give a shout out to the rest of the Freedom Fighters Collective.
Yes.
If you want to find Vision, he's a photographer. He's a graphic designer. His hold on IG is Vision Graphics 144. Let me get a shout out to my sister, VQ, Victorious_VQ. She's a poetic activist. She's out there, really pushing it with the North Water Coalition. And we just dropped a new hold for the actual Freedom Fighters itself. The collective itself is called Freedom Fighters _space. We're gonna be having like merch. We're gonna having events pretty soon. So stay tuned. Check it out.
Yeah, definitely support. Check it out. They're gonna be very proactive. I'm gonna have Vision on here, but with Vision, it's gonna be a whole nother.
That's gonna be on some spiritual trip.
It is, because him and I together, bro, we gonna be talking on examples, scenarios, how to combat it spiritually,
breaking
flesh wise, desire, temptations wise. It's gonna be all of that. So I'm gonna definitely look forward to that. I'm just waiting on Vision. He's very busy now.
That's the last of the collective that's gonna be going on. Let me give me more time. My hold for Instagram, freedom_righteousness_.
Okay. So you guys already got that. Freedom_, right?
Yeah.
_righteousness_.
Yeah.
Got it. And then of course, you guys can always catch an episode of Reflections of the Vow every Wednesday. Okay. On SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, IG, Facebook, you name it. We out here. Oh my God. And this is like episode 33 now.
33, getting up there now. The number's going up.
It's crazy. But I'm grateful. And I have so many listeners from a lot of internationally, really. I have listeners from Ireland, New Zealand, listeners from Australia, UK, Europe. Like, it's just immense love everywhere. Puerto Rico, I got a listener from Puerto Rico. I had some people from Jamaica, Africa. Like, yo, I love it. Keep it going and keep comments coming. If you guys have scenarios, if you guys have traumas, transitional periods in life that you want to share, I would happily, mention it on here, and we'll definitely talk it on. So yeah, this is Reflections of Val, and I'll see you guys. Yeah.